أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وأتباعه أجمعين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So we are reading from the 25th word, the second light, second beam, seventh mystery of eloquence, page 435. It sometimes happens that in order to disallow apparent causes the ability to create and to demonstrate how far they are from this, a verse points out the aims and fruits of the effects so that it may be understood that causes are only an apparent veil. For to will that most wise and purposeful aims are followed, and important results are obtained, is of necessity the work of one who is most knowing and wise. For to will that most wise and purposeful aims are followed, and important results are obtained, is of necessity the work of one who is most knowing and wise. Whereas causes are lifeless and without intelligence, so by mentioning the aims and results, such verses show that although causes are superficially and as beings joined to and adjacent to their effects, in reality there is a great distance between them. The distance from the cause to the creation of the effect is so great that the hand of the greatest causes cannot reach the creation of the most insignificant effects. Thus, it is within this long distance between cause and effect that the divine names each rise like stars. The place of their rising is this distance. To the superficial glance, mountains on the horizon appear to be joined to and contiguous with the skirts of the sky, although from the mountains to the sky is a vast distance, in which the stars rise and other things are situated. So too the distance between causes and effects is such that it may be seen only with the light of the Quran, through the telescope of belief. So I'm going to first read the Arabic. If you can, I don't know if you can show that on the screen. Chapter 80, Surah Abasa, verse 24 to 32. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Or I'll wait till you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه. Let mankind look at his food or sustenance. أنا صببنا ماء صبا. How we poured down water in torrents. ثم شققنا الأرض شقا. And we broke open the earth, splitting. فأنبتنا فيها حبا. And caused to grow within it grain. وإنابا وقضبا. And grapes and herbage. وزيتونا ونخلا. And olive and palm trees. وحدائق قلبا. And gardens of dense shrubbery. وفاكهة وأبا. And fruit and grass. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. Enjoyment for you and your grazing livestock. So these are the verses mentioned in Surah Abasa, talking about the effect itself that comes from the causer of all causes. So to keep going on with this paragraph, by mentioning miracles of divine power in purposeful sequence, This verse ties causes to effects and with the words. For use and convenience to you points to an aim at its conclusion. By mentioning miracles of divine power in a purposeful sequence, this verse ties causes to effects and with the words. For use and convenience to you points to an aim at its conclusion. This aim proves that within the sequence of all the causes and effects is a hidden disposer who sees and follows the aim, to whom the causes are avail. This aim proves that within the sequence of all the causes and effects is a hidden disposer who sees and follows the aim, to whom the causes are avail. Indeed, with the phrase, for use and convenience to you and your cattle, he's talking about the verse we read in verse 32, مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ, or at least the first part. The phrase itself, the verse itself, it disallows all the causes and the ability to create. It is in fact saying, rain comes from the sky in order to produce food for you and your animals. Since water does not possess the ability to pity you and produce food, it means that the rain does not come, it is sent. And the earth produces plants, and your food comes from there. But lacking feelings and intelligence, it is far beyond the ability of the earth to think of your sustenance and feel compassion for you. So it does not produce itself. Furthermore, since it is remote from plants and trees to consider your food and compassionately produce fruits and grains for you, the verse demonstrates that they are strings and ropes, which one all wise and compassionate extends from behind the veil, to which he attaches his bounties and holds out to animate creatures. Thus, from this explanation, numerous divine names arise, like all compassionate, provider, bestower, and all generous. Before we go on to the next example of seventh eloquence, I just wanted to stop there. And just summarizing my own thoughts. I think it's straightforward. He's saying that the eloquence of the Quran is that by pointing out the effects themselves, without mentioning the cause, it shows, as he says, the great distance between, or the apparent cause, I should say, the great distance between these apparent causes and the effects, and that they have no power to create. The clouds have no power to create rain in themselves, nor do the clouds know that I need rain, that when it's a drought that I'm in need of rain, or that when it's too much rain that I need the rain to stop, or I need that rain, or the rain doesn't know anything about the fact that I need to eat, that I have this sense of hunger and sense of being satiated, and it has no idea about that, nor does the grass or the shrubs know that, nor do the animals that eat these things know how I feel about that. But they're all some sort of effect that's taking place, one connected to the other. And these apparent causes have nothing to do with the very being of these things. And I think that's really the Quranic eloquence, is that, verse 24, it's فَلْيَنْظُرْ, the command, it's asking, like, to look, to see, to look at his food. Man, that's the thing I have the most interaction with on a day-to-day life, is food, my sustenance. And says, look at it, and not just simply look at it, but really implied within that, yandur, is like a consideration, like how is it that it is that I'm benefiting from this, and then going through this whole sort of thing I take for granted, all of these effects that are happening, that I just, I think should happen, for some reason I expect them to happen, and they do happen, and I never consider them. I never look at them and think about them. How we put, أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا, how we pour down water in torrents. Then ثُمَّ شَقَقْنَا الْأَرْضَ شَقًّا, then we broke open the earth splitting. فَأَنبَتْنَا فِيهَا حَبًّا, and caused to grow within it grain. I mean, just one thing after another. وَعِنَابًا وَقَضْبًا, and grapes and herbage. وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا, olive and palm trees. وَحَدَائِقَ غُلْبًا, and gardens of drenched shrubbery. وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبًّا, fruit and grass. مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ, and then it all comes back to me. Or the thing, like I said, cattle, for example. Like, it's interesting that this provision for me, provision for livestock, and I even take advantage of livestock also. Um, and all of these effects, and I never think about really what is causing these things to happen in this sort of process, this order, in which one step after another, and I benefit from them. And if those didn't occur, I would be in serious trouble, serious pain. Um, so it's interesting. The Quran goes straight to the heart of the matter. Like, it doesn't beat around the bush talking about, well, you know, this is how a plant grows, and it needs this and this, and it goes through this process of photosynthesis, because that's not really relevant to um, understanding what's actually happening. Because those things are just apparent veils. They don't tell me anything. They're just information. They don't tell me something about how it relates to my interaction or relationship with the world, or how I feel about my relationship with, let's say, my sustenance, my food, and the fact that I need it. Uh, because that's not something that secular civilization will have me consider. They're not too concerned about that. They're not too concerned about, like, what is really happening. Fixated on the scenery, the details, the information. Uh, so that to me, as he points out, as Nursi points out, is, it's is really the high eloquence of the Quran, that it can get to the heart of the matter in such a short amount of time. And it's only a few short verses that it's able to do that. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts of their own on this. Yeah, go ahead, Mohammed Said.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. This text reminded me just recently. I had an experience yesterday. It was rain. It was a rainy day here, and I met with a person. And the first time when I met with her, and I saw her face was so like upset. And is everything okay? And she said it's rainy day. And we talked about the rain, and it is sent. Is it coming by itself, or is it sent, or is it for us? Do you think that this is just happening by itself? So we came to the conclusion that it is for us, it is being sent. So there's nothing to be upset, let alone being upset. We should be thankful, and really thankful, that we cannot do anything like this, and it is being sent without it's beyond our capacity to do such a thing. So this text reminded me that the way the Quran is bringing these happenings into my attention, um, it's not only like it is being sent, but it is coming from a mercy. It is coming from a compassion, because it's beyond my capacity to do, and it is being sent for free, for everything, for me, for everything else around me. And I think that's something that I always forget, to be thankful. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I agree with you in that it is something that we don't think about, and there is a sort of freeness to it. I don't pay anything for this at all. And what's interesting is that things are so perfectly aligned. This process is such perfectly aligned to who I am as a human being that it's not an order that's haphazard, and yet I take it for granted. And as you said, when things are happening within those effects, I get unhappy, never understanding that what am I getting unhappy about? The rain? What is the rain? Why am I unhappy about the rain? The rain doesn't feel anything about me. It doesn't know how I feel. It's just drops of water, particles. So the question is, like, why do I feel this way at all? And what is it within rain that necessitates I feel a certain way? Which also points to the fact that it's, as you said, it's being sent by something beyond the rain itself. The fact that it can elicit some sort of feeling, happiness, joy, maybe discontent also, but nonetheless, that in and of itself speaks to something beyond the rain that I need to consider. I have to look this up, but there's a famous hadith about do not curse the wind. I don't know how the rest of it goes, but I'll have to look this up. But essentially, that it comes from the creator of the heavens and the earth, the source of existence. So what am I really unhappy about? I have to examine how I feel, because something out there is eliciting some feeling, and it's causing me, in a sense, to feel a certain way. So I have to ask myself, what does that mean beyond it? Because these are just events. So I have to look beyond it. I have to consider what it actually means in my life. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Berka.
Selamun alaikum. Jazakallah khairan for discussion so far. I have one question actually to the group, and this is a sincere question. Like, I'm not trying to, teach anything to anybody. It's really a sincere one. So I wonder how people feel when they read such verses and then such an explanation about these verses, because the text, in a nutshell, just in a nutshell, says when you look at the universe, you will see that there's a purpose, there's a meaning behind everything. Hence, there must be a all powerful, generous, compassionate creator. So there is a compassion in the universe. When you look at the rain, there is a compassion. Whoever is sending down the rain, it must be compassionate. So what people think, what people feel about such an explanation, because according to author, this is a great argument proving something. I wonder how people feel.
That's a good question. I guess I'll leave it open first if anybody wants to respond to that question. Yeah, go ahead, Mom. Say.
Yeah, to Birkan's question, what I like this argument, and the reason why I like is that it connects the need to the response to this need. Like I am in need of something, And in order for my need to be responded, it should be acknowledged, it should be known. And not only it should be acknowledged, it should be, if it is responded, I kind of receive it that it is acknowledged. And because of like in my personal, in my practical life, if my need is responded, it means it is the one who is responding is has mercy on me, has compassionate on me. So when I start from my need, and if I look at the events happening around me, like the rain, uh, am I in need of rain? Yes. And the rain is coming down. So is the let's say the cloud able to acknowledge my need, or therefore have mercy on me? It is not it is not possible for me to like have this conclusion that yes, the cloud knows me, or um, the sun knows me, therefore sends me the sunlight. So therefore the argument in the Quran, or the way the author is understanding the verses of the Quran, um, comes becomes confirmable for me to say that these things cannot know me, cannot know my need, therefore they cannot respond to my need. They're the one who has the mercy, who has life, who has the knowledge, should be the one who is responding to me, which is the which can only be the creator of the universe. So that's how I receive it, and it makes sense to me. But if you have a different look at it, I would love to hear it, definitely.
Thank you for those compliments, Saidi. I agree with you in that, um, if one just looks at it without the perspective of need or human neediness, then it becomes sort of external or removed. Like, oh, I can rationally understand that these things have a cause beyond themselves, but that's it. It doesn't make it personal for me, and it does, and nor does it say why am I given those things to even begin with, because you know reasonably I could say I don't need to be provided those things, but it's within the fact that, as you said, connecting my need to be satisfied, my need to be content, my need to be satiated, my need for the perfection of order. Because I could say, if I were created, exist in this world, and yet I'm not provided for it, that would seem like sort of a transgression, as Nursi would put it, like against mercy, or in the name of provider. And it it's the need itself that sort of drives my need, so to speak, again, to understand what's going on, because it's from the need that I recognize that I'm given, that I'm provided for, and in such a merciful and compassionate way that it doesn't even need to be this way. And going back on, talking about again about like secular, modern secular sort of discord or civilization, nobody considers this really. The fact that I'm given or provided for, there's no discussion about that. Like if you walk into a science class today, no mention of the fact that I'm a human being, that I need these things. Oh, it's just the fact that you know this and this happen, and therefore you eat this food and you evolve this way. I mean, okay, that's great, but how about the fact that I need it? Why do I even need it? Why do I even feel this way? How did that come into being? How can you explain that fact from rain that doesn't know anything about me, or the grass or herbage or shrubbery or vegetables, no, or fruit? They have no concept of who I am. nor do they really fundamentally necessarily, when I look at them, let's say I take them to a lab underneath the microscope, I don't see anything that says that, oh, I need to satisfy the human being. But that is a aspect or perspective that's commonly overlooked and not considered. Does anybody have any comments? I don't know, Birkan, you wanted to respond, or anybody else did? Yeah, go ahead.
So maybe just to encourage others to speak as well. So when I read such explanations given as an argument, still it bothers me. It kind of annoys me, as if the author is cheating by sharing us how he feels or what he needs, and how his needs are satisfied, and how happy he is by this the needs being satisfied or fulfilled. Hence sharing us with his the personal sharing us his personal views and feelings, opinions, and ask us to believe, not only believe, but also take it as an argument that we can use ourselves as well. It doesn't have to be convinced to someone else, but even to convince myself. And it bothers me, right? Still, like after all these discussions, all these, the using similar argument myself from time to time, still there's this discomfort with me, and I wonder, I'm trying to understand this discomfort. I have some ideas about it while listening to you, both of you, Mohammed, Saeed, and Suhail. I kind of realized, like, a few lights sent to my mind about this discomfort, but I like to hear others as well. Again, this is really not a purposeful act. I'm not trying to make people speak or fishing. It's just I really need to hear what they think. I really want to hear what they think, whether they share this discomfort to some degree, maybe another kind of discomfort they have. I just want to learn.
I guess if I understand what you're saying is that you're saying that you take issue with the fact that it seems as if maybe he's imposing how he feels and using how he feels from his perspective as the reason to understand these verses or understand what's happening in this world, I guess, as it pertains to like this example here about provision. Or is it, from understanding correctly?
Exactly, because like the type of arguments we are we are accustomed to hear, like it doesn't have to be mathematical or anything, but still, like, I don't see such arguments in textbooks, for instance, or in any books written by intellectuals. Throughout all my education, I reached the highest level that you can get from the academia. And so I've been bombarded by the education system. And probably because of that, when I read such arguments, it feels something, off, that is not the type of arguments that you should be given. Like, who cares about what you need? Who cares about how you feel? Like, these are these little demons in my mind speaking.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right in the sense that if I showed this, um, if I show this to like so like an ardent, let's say a scientist, um, who say like, oh, I followed the scientific method, it would be odd to say like how I feel or my neediness and using that as a point of reference. Um, However, the interesting thing is that when they sort of talk about the human being, they don't acknowledge the fact that um, their constitution of what makes a human being is purely just simply some, is matter. And it's interesting in that, and I find it's a bit self-contradictory because I always think about, or even ask some of these people, like, why do you feel even the need to understand the human being? Yes, you're trying to understand them from the material perspective. Human being has so many chromosomes and so many limbs and so many senses and does this and that, and speaks this way. But why does one even feel the need to understand the human being? Where does it come from? Because there's not even an acknowledgement of this fact that people spend their entire lives, as you said, spending tens of billions, hundreds of billion on let's say studying the matter. If we take the reductionist approach, why consume so many resources to try to do that? In a sense, from within that own paradigm, they are using also their own need to try to make sense of the world. Now they're trying to make sense of the world from a material perspective because that's their premise, even though it's a false premise. They try to make sense of the world from a material perspective to satisfy that need to try to understand things. Um, I will stop and go ahead, Abdulaziz. Sorry, you want to speak?
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I've been struggling to raise my hand. I swear it was here last week. Anyways, when I read these arguments, I'm trying to respond to what Birkan was asking because I always feel a lot of discomfort. Just to be fair, but and I even have this experience with my parents. Sometimes I think, oh, I see signs of discomfort, but they express a lot of comfort. And sometimes I think, oh, they're just pretending, but it seems pretty genuine to me. And what I wonder is like, am I the one who's like not finding the appropriate definition of comfort? Like maybe there is some comfort in that discomfort. And these folks who make this argument really get that part and find comfort in being vulnerable and even in a pain at times. And I'm not like that. I want to find comfort. I want like a soft blanket. I want a nice car. I want good pasta. Like I want real comfort. I don't want like comfort in like, although it might be good for me to go through a difficult path and learn a lot, but while I'm going through that struggle, I don't know if I would call it that I am comfortable. I would not, but maybe Nursi and maybe, to credit my parents, maybe other people have that ability or are giving that ability to look at that and see comfort in that, and then express that their needs were satisfied. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's like you said, it's Nursi is able to take how he feels or introspect, kind of as the verse said, to look beyond to look at oneself and to introspect and make sense of how one feels. Now, as you both said, somebody may say that seems a bit cheap. However, what I would ask anybody, what other point can one start from other than how one feels to reason? Like nobody reasons or tries to make sense of things, like I said, because for nothing. There's a reason people, there's some need. There's a need for, a biologist to understand how matter works. There's a need for a physicist to understand how the universe works, how particles work. There's a need for a chemist to understand how reactions work. I'm just using scientific examples, but you can apply that to any field. And there's a need everywhere. And the interesting thing is that no one seems to acknowledge that need. And even in those fields, no one seems to acknowledge those fields. And then at the same time, not only acknowledge them, but then deny them, or simply just sort of brush them to the side. But that's the entire reason anybody does anything. And to me, what I need or how I feel is not the ends in and of themselves, but it's just a means for me to introspect or to look, as the Quran says, to think about things. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily. I would have no need to. But those are my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else has any commentary. No. Okay. Go ahead, Berkan.
As much as I want to hear people, probably that's a hard question. They don't want to answer, maybe, ashamed. So I've been thinking while listening to you, and so you made this emphasis on the ayah, the very beginning one, where it says, Yanzuru, what was it? The Yanzuru, yeah. Fal Yanzuru. Yanzuri. So nazar, looking, right? As you said, it's not just looking, but considering, so on. It is also a word somehow related to your worldview, right? The world around you. So when you say, for instance, take it into your nazar, so it's like take it into your consideration by considering yourself and what you see around you. So it is not just looking, it's also taking it, reflecting it onto yourself, or starting from yourself and see how it is related to you, and so on and so forth. So this is really interesting, because this is not the way of thinking, way of interacting with things that we are being taught. So we are being taught just the opposite, as I said, and I still have it in me, which says, if you want to understand something, remove yourself from it. And this is how you should be making arguments. That's one part of it, I guess, why I'm disturbed, because this is what I'm being taught, again, for all these years. It's not, a few years, it's more than 30 years we are talking about. So if you beat somebody for 30 years, probably they will accept that they deserve to be beaten. So it changes the psychology of the person, destroys it. The same way, I guess, as we being exposed to this understanding, remove yourself, you are worthless, you are just a speck. And we feel that way now. I feel that I'm worthless. If as a part of the reality, I don't mean anything. I need to be discarded. And I don't know how other people, can overcome this feeling, overcome this disturbance, this discomfort. But to me, it's not that easy. That's one thing. And as a response, the interesting part, the response is so easy that, as you said, Suhail, that if you want to understand something, it's you that trying to understand something. So removing yourself doesn't mean anything. It's just a paradox. Without you, without your feelings, without your interactions, anything, it's just, you know, incomplete reality that you're trying to understand. And it's just dead end. Trying to remove yourself is impossible. So the answer is so easy, but still, after, again, 30 years plus, 30 plus years, I guess the mental, the impairments I've been inflicted is so heavy that it's hard. That's one part. The second part is probably, again, while I was listening to Mohammed Saeed, I realized something, that when we talk about the emotions or feelings, there are different ways to talk about them. The one way is saying that, I feel that way, so it must be true. Like, I feel there's God, or I love the idea that there's God, so it must be so. Because, this is how I feel, and you cannot defeat this. I feel as I wish, or I think as I wish, so there's nothing you can say. We can take such a stance, but we can also talk about the feelings, emotions in a more universal way. That's, I guess, what Mohammed Said was suggesting. Is that it's not about, just how you feel or what you need, what you want. This is not the argument. The argument is the fact that you feel something, or you want something, you need something. It doesn't matter whether you like banana or ice cream. What matters, you like banana or ice cream or something else. Doesn't matter. But you like. There's this ability to like. There's this, the fact that you like something or you need something. Again, there is a fact that this need is sustained, or the answer to your need is out there, even if it's not in grasp of your hand yet, it is out there. It is possible. So there's this connection between your need and sustenance, and this is a fact. This is a universal fact that you can share with others, you can discuss with others. So I guess when it comes to religion, we are so used to hear the first type, especially from other religions, or especially from religious people who are not used to, discuss things. That, oh, I feel that way, so it is. So we used to hear this, and hence, whenever we read something about feelings or needs, we think it's the same thing. The Nursi, the author here, is just saying that, oh, he feels that way, so it is, but it's not. Nursi is talking about something universal, a need of a person. Doesn't matter who this person is, whether Aziz parents or not, whether they are satisfied or not, it doesn't matter. What matters that people need satisfaction. And I think the argument goes, the argument uses this fact that the people need sustenance, rather than Nursi needs ice cream, Aziz needs, banana, and so on and so forth. So it's the universality of the feelings, universality of the needs makes it an argument. So far, that's what I was able to, get from your explanations. I hope one day it will overcome my, again, the mental impairment. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah for your thoughts, comments. I don't know if we want to stop here because it's past Maghrib time, then resume. Is that okay? Or okay, I guess we can. I don't know how long we want to stop for. Is it 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I guess 10 minutes should be enough, but I don't know what others think. So if it is 10 minutes, we don't need to stop the streaming. It can wait.
Okay, we can stop for 10 minutes, inshallah, and then resume. Assalamu alaikum. Is everyone available or should we wait? Okay, I don't think everyone's back yet, so we'll wait. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Okay, I think if everyone's back, we can start again. So does anybody have any comments again before we continue? Okay, so I will continue reading. And we are at the part where it says, and another example. I don't know if Birkan, you can pull up the verses. It's chapter 24, verses 43 through 45. Surah An-Nur. Chapter 24, verse 43 through 45. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ألم ترى أن الله يزجي سحابا ثم يؤلف بينه ثم يجعله ركاما فترى الودق يخرج من خلاله وينزل من السماء من جبال فيها من برد فيصيب به من يشاء ويصرفه عمن يشاء يكاد سنا برقه يذهب بالأبصار. Do you not see that God drives clouds? Then he brings them together, and then he makes them into a mass, and you see the rain emerge from within it. And he sends down from the sky mountains within which is hail. And then he strikes with it whom he wills and averts it from whom he wills. The flash of its lightning almost takes away the eyesight. Okay. And the next verse, verse 44. يقلب الله الليل والنهار إن في ذلك العبرة لأولي الأبصار. And God alternates the night and the day. Indeed, in that is a lesson for those who have vision or who can see. والله خلق كل دابة من ماء فمنهم من يمشي على بطنه ومنهم من يمشي على رجلين ومنهم من يمشي على أربع يخلق الله ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير. God has created every creature from water, and of them are those that move on their bellies, and of them are those that walk on two legs, and of them are those that walk on four. God creates what he wills. Indeed, God is over all things competent. Okay. So he mentions these verses, and then he goes on to say in the text, this verse explains the wondrous disposals and the formation of clouds and causing of rainfall, which is one of the most important miracles of divinity, and strangest veil of the treasury of mercy. Like soldiers who have dispersed to rest, gathered together at the call of a bugle, clouds gather and form at the divine command when their parts have been dispersed and hidden in the atmosphere. Then, like an army is formed of small groups, the pieces of cloud come together and form masses, which are vast, towering, moist and white, and contain snow and hail like the moving mountains at the resurrection, from which the water of life is sent to living beings. But in its being sent, a will and purpose are apparent. It comes in accordance with need. This means it is sent. It's interesting. But in its being sent, a will and purpose are apparent. It comes in accordance with need. This means it is sent. While the skies are clear and empty, the mountainous pieces of cloud do not gather together of their own accord into a great gathering of wonders. They are sent by one who knows the living creatures. In this distance, then, divine names rise, like all-powerful, all-knowing, disposer, designer, nurture, succorer, and giver of life. So again, he gives another example from Surah An-Nur, verses 43 through 45, about the rain and the night and the day, and then how every animal that walks upon the earth or on their belly essentially comes from water. Honestly, when you think about it, it's miraculous. If you just I guess you can't step back from yourself, as Mirkan pointed out, but if you just think about it or look or have some vision, as the Quran says, absar, basar, or basira, some sort of inward vision of the world. It's strange that how all of these things are happening. The clouds being moved, coming together, sending down from the sky mountains of hail or rain, and from that, animals come into being. And he uses that later on in the para, which I read, this part that I read twice. But in its being sent, a will and purpose are apparent. I think that's important there, is that if I really think about it, what other reason is there for those things to happen, such that creatures come forth from the earth, or that I benefit from it? There is a sort of common human need for that to happen. And it comes in accordance with need. The need to be. Everyone wants to be. Me, others, human beings, animals, creatures, everybody. They want to be. That's the most basic need, is to just simply exist. And then for my needs to be met, let's say sustenance, provision, comfort, universal sort of wants. And as he says, he reasons with that and says this means sent. Because how else does one explain the fact that, those things are happening in accordance with the sort of human, fundamental human need of needing to be provided, needing to be nurtured, needing to be given life. Everybody has that need. Needing for things to be taken care of, the order to be taken care of, because I can't do anything. So this is, I think, just in line with the last example, it's sort of the same sort of reasoning he's using. So, and the verse, again, similar to the last verse, is in that it's looking beyond the things of self. It's getting to the heart of the matter. Because the emphasis is on God, and he does this, and it's his will. As he so chooses, he strikes whom he pleases and turns it away from whom he pleases. God who alternates the night and day. God has created every animal. God has power over all things. That's really the essence of the matter. The essence of anything, really. That's where my vision looks to. How is this happening? Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? No other comments? Birkan, go ahead.
Jazakallah khairan again. So this point about being sent, and as you said, it's somehow fulfilling a need. So I guess it's really interesting. Like when we say something is being sent, or something is sent, it is the idea, even the idea of sending something or something being sent is a human idea. It's a human notion. So without a human, we cannot talk about sending, right? We may try to talk about, for instance, falling or moving, which is still, although we pretend as if we can talk about it, because this is, as I said before, this is what we used to hear, that when we hear things like it's moving or it's falling, it's I don't know, something accelerating, we think we don't need an agency there. We don't need a conscious being doing it, which is nonsense. But anyway, so going back to send, it's obvious that it is a human concept. Like you need a human to talk about something is being sent. From the other, like if we start from the other end, we can say that if we look at the rain and the clouds as a human, then we will see that it's being sent. It's being sent to whom? To you. Because you receive it. Like you receive the benefit, you receive the gift. So it's being sent to you directly. But again, it is only possible to say such a thing if you are a human being, if you act as a human being, if you do not pretend that you are something other than human. Once you look at it as a human being, through your needs, through your desires, through your feelings, through your ideas, everything as a package, then you will realize that it is being sent. Then you will realize this water means life to you. or as you said, existence to you. Water becomes life if you are a human being. If you are just a cattle, like an animal, then it doesn't mean life to you. Because for you, there is no such notions like life or need. But you cannot. Even if you try to pretend, you cannot. Because as you said again, you need to be alive. You want to be alive. And that's the most powerful impetus, the engine that makes you run. You want to be alive. And without it, you are nothing. So it's being sent because you are a human being, because you enjoy it, because you want it.
Yeah, just clear. That's very important. I like your analogy of the engine. Is that if there is no sort of like nothing happens, nothing. There's no sort of human drive to understand anything. And I think that's the impetus of the impetus, the impulse to move forward, to try to understand something. So, one thing I would say though is that an animal, not a human being, but an animal may have their own sort of impetus or need, but it's at the degree of the animal. And as you said, scent sort of implies some sort of humanity, because it's looking beyond. It's not looking at the apparent veil. It's looking at something beyond the veil. Whereas for an animal, they just see the veil. And I've never been a cow. Hi there. So I don't, I've never been a cow or a goat or a sheep. I think about what that would be like, but I don't think there's any sort of perception, about, as you said, scent. I don't even know if there's a perception about, and maybe there is to some extent, like about coming from the sky, but it's almost like living moment to moment. Oh, there's rain. Oh, it's wet. Let me go somewhere else. Oh, there's grass here. Oh, let me eat this. I'm hungry. Oh, it's too hot. Maybe I need to move. Oh, I feel some sort of danger. Oh, I'm going to try to get away from danger. But nothing beyond that. I'm not looking anywhere beyond that, just not anything beyond what's apparent to me. Yeah, maybe there's an impetus to survive, to live, but it doesn't go anything beyond that. Yeah, go ahead.
You are perfectly right, like completely right. Like when I say the animal, I was just caricaturizing, right? Using the animal as something cannot, think, imagine, or whatever. Probably it's not true. But what you said after that as well is really important. So I was listening to, I was like joining a class. The professor was saying, talking about the fear, the human fear. And he was saying, he was describing the fear in an equivalent form of a fear of the animal. Just like you said, you see something scary and then you run away. It makes sense because you don't want to die. Or this is how you were, programmed. And she was talking about all these physiological changes in the body, which makes sense, because when you lose some part of things like inside you, you can run away faster, so on and so forth. And when you hear about this is the fear, as they describe, it's a fear of an animal in a diverse form. It's not fear of human, it's nothing even close. But you're not talking about my fear, because my fear have all these different dimensions. My fear has a dimension of surrendering. The surrendering. My fear have this dimension of, you know, feeling safe. It is so rich. And what you are talking about there, it's definitely not a human fear. I don't know what it is. Probably not even a fear of an animal. I'm sure the fear of an animal is richer than what they describe, but it just destroy it. So when you look from this angle, from this perspective, there is no such thing as fear anymore. The fear is just lost, just like, you know, it's being satisfied or being sent. For such a creature that, as she was talking, there is no such thing, something being sent, because there is no human there. Jazakallah khair. What you said, it was really important. It made me, you know, excited.
No, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? I know we don't have too much time, but I'd like to hear from anybody else who has any comments or thoughts on the matter. Okay, all right. Let's see. Let me look back at the text for a second. You know, the other interesting thing, and he talks about names. You know, names from the last example and names from this example. And divine names rise. It's as if he's almost welding or the divine names to my need, or to the sort of common universal need. In that, you know, it's interesting, like people always, like I've always, like when I have these conversations with people, they'll say, like, why do things have to be this way? Why couldn't it be this way? And in a sense, that sort of, you know, expresses a need, because let's say, why does there have to be, to use the example of rain here, why does there have to be famine or drought or flooding, something like this? In a sense, that also expresses a need about the need for perfection, the need for provision or bestowal, but at my expectation, how I want it to be, how I wish it were willed to be. But in that sense, but because of that, it's as if from that need do these divine names rise. In other words, it's not like they don't exist outside of the fact that there is a neediness there. Whether it's something that I may not really think about as it pertains to being needy, being in need of, but all knowledgeable. I'm in need of an all knowledgeable one, from who knows how all of these things must work, how this order must be taking place, and then who I am, knowing who I am and what my needs are, such that, you know, I can find contentment or satisfaction. Or one powerful to actually not just know, but powerful enough to do it and to will it into being. And not just will it into being, but do so in a merciful and compassionate way. And not only do that, but provide it in the most just way possible. And bestow it to me in sort of the simplest or easiest way possible. I mean, when I think moments I brought up earlier, I don't pay for anything. And it's I don't really do anything. I just, let's say, put a seed in the ground. That's literally all I do. I put a seed. And even if I don't pour water on it, if there's rain and the sun, I don't control the sun, I don't control the rain. And then suddenly a plant comes and I benefit from it. I don't even think twice about it. All I do is put a seed in the ground. It's such a perfect way to which my need is addressed. And there I get that name of like bestower, provider. designer or nurturer, as he mentions, giver of life. Like I do nothing to add to, even though I need life, but I do nothing to actually sort of substantiate it or to make it be in that way. So it's an interesting take on divine names. Whereas like a sort of classical understanding is it sort of removes the self. Like, oh, I see knowledge out there, and oh, so the creator must be all knowledgeable. But this is something personal now, honestly. But go ahead, Yusuf.
So this reminds me of like quizzes that we used to take. There is a sentence and there is some gap, some empty space left in there. So the sentence without this word is incomplete, and you are being asked to fill in so that the sentence is going to become meaningful. And this is a necessary tool for education. Like, why did the professor left this part empty? What was the point? So you read it, you realize that it's not working out. Then you will need the proper word to put in there. So you first recognize the lack of it, the need for it, and then once it fits into the picture, you say, yeah, now it makes sense. So this is how education is for human. So we first experience the one that's missing or the incorrect one, so that there's going to be this feeling of lacking. Something is wrong in here, something is missing in here. And then once you put it to the proper place, then you say, now it works. So in the creation between cause and the effect, such a huge gap is left. We observe very incapacitated causes. And on the other hand, we observe very purposeful effects or results coming into being. And in between them is, in reality or in meaning, once you think about it, is a huge gap. It is as if there's this baby or a child coming up with a theorem which eventually is going to be awarded with Nobel Prize. So there's a huge gap between them. What's going on in here? Who gave this theorem to the hand of this child, you would ask? So we need to ask the same question to the creation, and this is what these verses are, in a sense, putting into our eyes, saying that, look, on one hand, there is this earth, then there's this rain. On the other hand, there's this very purposeful feeding of you. So feeding of you requires a lot of qualities which are lacking in the rain or the earth itself. So fill that gap now. What is needed so that this right-hand side is going to be done? Because the thing on the left-hand side doesn't really do in the equation, it doesn't match. So this is where we say, oh, then there must be an all-merciful one who is invisible to me, yet is behind the scenes acting as such. So he must be the most merciful. There must be a most merciful one, so on and so forth. So this is how human education works in general. And this is how it is being done in the creation also. And Quran is, as it is reading us, the book of universe, follows this pattern.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I like when he says, as you said, in this distance, then divine names rise. You know, as you pointed out, and he points out, the distance between apparent cause, and the effect is infinite, and within that infinitely vast space arises an infinitely vast name or quality or absolute name or absolute quality. So the cause can never take part in the effect because there's an infinite degree of difference. And then, as you said, to fill in the blank, is where the name arises. Mohammed Said, go ahead.
I know time is up. I really enjoyed it. Your comments.
Can you fix your mic? It's hard to understand.
Can you hear me now? Is
Yeah,
it
it's
better? Okay. I was I wanted to share something that I was looking. I just uh, typed on Google how the universe came to be. I know it's a silly idea to type on Google, but I did. And the first result, and the first sentence of the first result was, in the early years, the universe was made of gas. And this definitely not an answer to the question at all. But now it is connected with my mind, being human being asking the real question without really taking anything for granted, that this universe was not here and it is here. And it definitely, it's obvious to human mind that this universe has to be brought into existence by something other than the universe. So when this when this honesty is not there, when I am not asking the question, the causes and effects seem to be related. And I think um, when I ask the question honestly, how this universe came to be, how this life is being sustained, uh, I see that whatever the universe, however the universe is brought into existence, the same response is applicable to every single event in the universe, because the part of the universe should be applied the same answer that the whole universe, uh, the answer that is applicable to whole universe itself. I think it's very with the message of the Quran, with the maybe all the scriptures, that the idea that this universe has to be brought into existence by something other than the universe is actually very easy to accept once I am, uh, as it was said, like a human being, nothing else but a human being, and ask, who am I, or what is this universe for?
Yeah, thank you, Muhammad Saeed. Yeah, it's very easy to conclude that, and as you said, I can apply my assessment, my introspection, my sight. Looking at a particular example, as the verses pointed out. My experience, my personal experience with my food, or the rain, or the environment, with creatures, and see that it's a very universal principle. And just like human need is universal, so too is the conclusion universal. Does anybody else have any thoughts before we close tonight? Okay. Then I will close. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة.